There's Hannah Einbinder, who plays Ava in Hacks, on the show today. Hannah, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm like sort of obsessed with Hacks. Are you finding that a lot of people don't just like it, they like are obsessed with it?
That is what I am told. That is what I am told. It's nice. And I mean, I feel obsessed with it, like I feel like I'm watching the episodes like alongside everyone. Like there were some weeks where they gave me screeners, but I was like, I want to experience this collectively with the group and like do a little, it's just, I love it. Jen, Paul, and Lucia are so brilliant.
So good. Talk to me about how it came about. Like, how did you get this role? Maybe a little bit about the audition process and all of that.
Yeah. I got the audition sides in my inbox like a couple days before the initial lockdown in March of 2020. I want to say like March 9th or something. And I just, I went into a casting office and just, did what I always do, which is like assume nothing will come of whatever I'm doing and just pleasantly move through it. And I mean, when I read the sides, I became kind of obsessed with it. And so I was like, oh, it's going to really suck when I don't get this because this is so good, but I can't wait to watch it.
Did you know that Jean was attached at that point, or was she not on board?
I believe she was.
Okay.
She was. But just auditioned, and then the lockdown happened on the 13th, and my callback was over Zoom. And then I did the screen test in person with Jean a couple months later. The audition process was pretty long. It's not that there were many auditions, but because of, safety concerns, we kept pushing everything. It just, after that point, it was about maybe 2 weeks. And then Paul, Lucia, and Jen called me and, they told me that they offered me the part. And it was a total dream.
I mean, it's just so good. I wonder if you have any awareness of how much maybe the scripts changed because of COVID. Were they all written prior to COVID, or?
I think maybe through, I want to say 6 or 7 were written. But I think little things, right? So if there's something where it's like, we're in a crowded grocery store or a crowded blah, 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 that maybe is altered to be, to communicate whatever needs to be communicated, but in a way where not a lot of people are needed. Certain things you can't get around, but those things tended to be open air, like the extras on a bus in that scene that was completely outside. So I think little things like that, but I don't think anything too major changed because we were doing, all the safety precautions anyway.
One of my favorite scenes, there were obviously so many memorable moments, but I love the scene with your character and the Kiki character singing the Selena Gomez song in Driving Around. I want to just sort of dive into that scene. Like, what do you remember about filming that? I know a lot of gay men like myself, we kind of became, for lack of another term, obsessed with that scene as well. What do you remember about shooting that? And
well, that was his first scene. And it was the first time I ever met Poppy. And so they were like coming off a plane from New York. They got the call, maybe like, I think they booked that gig like a couple days before. And so they were like, okay, I'm here. Like it was all very like a kind of a whirlwind. And so they came in and we connected immediately, but I attribute that to Poppy being such a beautiful healing presence. And we just kind of connected immediately. And that was like pretty early on in filming. And, I was incredibly anxious and self-critical, as I am in life. And so that was actually the first time I relaxed on set because Poppy, I really think they had this this loving sort of light to them. And we got in the car, and I'm telling you, there is probably 11 minutes of footage from that of us completely improvising, riffing for minutes at a time. Like, it was so much fun. It was, real. We were laughing. We were excited. It was like us meeting and becoming friends in this moment. So that was real, all of it. There was I don't feel we were really acting,
It's such a powerful scene. And what's interesting to me about it is it feels very powerful, but there's not like incredibly powerful monologuing or anything like that. It's just a connection between the two of you in that moment that I just think is amazing.
Thank you.
Was the character always bisexual, or was that? Yeah, that was always.
Yeah.
I want to talk about bisexual representation in media. We often talk on the show about representation, and I wonder, did you have input on how the character of Ava was represented in those ways in terms of her bisexuality? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I would have been listened to as I was every time I said anything about anything. But I didn't need to. Like, she was, written by queer people. So she was written well, in my view, so it's such a relief to not have to, it is beyond a privilege to not have to be like, you guys kind of threw this detail in, for whatever reason. Like, no, it was like, here's this character, and like, this is a, huge part of her identity, but it's not everything. And she's at work, and that's the focus of this. But, queer people actually more, we do things other than just like here all the day. Like, we have appointments and things.
Right. Yeah. Lots of appointments.
Yeah, I think places to go, people to see. So yeah, like, luckily she was, that monologue, the Ava Deborah scene where Ava's kind of like clarifying what's going on for Deborah. I believe that is the first draft that I got. And what I read on that day was what I got in the original script. So it was,
So often when I'm watching anything in a queer character in scripted world, it rings false for so many different reasons. And so, yeah, that one, I just thought it was really well done. People are kind of arguing back and forth online whether or not Ava is funny. Do you think, like, in terms of as a joke writer, does that make sense? Do you think Ava is funny?
Yes, I do. And I think anybody who's talking shit about Ava can absolutely S my D, okay? She's my friend. Back off.
I love that.
I don't want to, I don't want to hear people talking shit about her, because I feel like it's so entrenched in this like misogynist lens of like, well, she's not, it's so like this, it's the most classic like chauvinist note of like, well, she's not even, it's like the women aren't funny thing, like whatever.
I get it. When I was growing up, I always hated that question because I truly, as a gay man, I was always attracted to female comedians. I related to them more. So I was always like, I don't think men are funny. Like, I don't.
I mean, I just, I can't wait for us to be like so post-gender. But to answer that, I think that the show, one of the reasons the show is great is because it does not dwell so much on the comedy itself. It's about these relationships and these people and their inner lives. And so, the focus of the show is not on the act. If it were, you would be seeing Deborah on stage constantly. It would be more about workshopping. Like, it's really about this world. And so when people say like Ava's not funny, it's also like, that is, by the way, like, yes, obviously, like, whatever, I think she is, whatever, but everyone is super, super, super entitled to whatever opinion. It's all good. But it's just like, comedy is so subjective. And, I think when you juxtapose these two very different styles, like, a lot of people are conditioned towards, like Ava says, this very male setup punchline, whatever. So Ava is kind of speaking for and tapping into this thing that is very prevalent in LA comedy today, that I think a lot of people haven't seen yet. And so they become confused because they're like, what is this? Which to me is the point. And I'm like, joke's on you.
I felt that that's the point, is the difference between, also generationally, I just think, you know, if you look at someone like Joan Rivers, who was a brilliant comedian, amazing, she had a different style of comedy than a lot of young comics do here now. Yeah, but it's interesting. Okay, I got to talk about Jean. We love Jean's a queen, an icon, and a legend. Tell me everything about her.
Also a star, if I may add.
Did you watch like Designing Women? Did you where did you fall with her before?
You know what's so funny? I sort of like looked back on things I'd seen and realized that Jean was a part of it. Like I was a huge Kim Possible fan as a kid, and Jean played Kim Possible's mom. And like, there were little things like that where I'm like, I mean, Jean's in everything.
Right.
So, but like, I mean, I just remember watching her on Watchmen and being like, whoa, like she's so cool. And I was looking up her press because I was like, I want to like see how she is. And I was like, oh, she's so chill. And then I was like, oh, she's from Seattle. Like everyone from Seattle is cool. So like, it just became this, like, I had all of this background knowledge on her and I had seen all these things that she was in. And then I did extra research and was like, okay, who is this person? And like all of looking at her filmography, and it's just like,
it's everything.
Yeah, it's everything. I got to see so much more.
I had forgotten she was in the Brady Bunch movie, like the 90s version of the Brady Bunch. And I had rewatched it recently, and she's like the horny neighbor. And I'm like, God, she's just amazing and everything. Okay, so where's Hacks going? Have you started season 2? I know you got picked up for season 2. Do you know where the stories are going?
I haven't seen anything yet. I have not even an inkling of an idea, truly.
Okay, what do you want to happen? And then I'll tell you what I think I want to happen.
God, I mean, I would love to see them on the road, but I also I'm also incredibly puzzled as to how the little like sort of twist at the end is going to play out. I don't know what will come of that because, as we know, Deborah Vance's philosophy is never forgive, never forget, baby. But, you know, I feel like these two are kind of growing, and I almost feel, I don't know, my feeling is like, does this count in the apology that just happened? Can Ava just be like, ooh, and by the way, there was this one other thing that I forgot about because I was blacked out and sorry. Or, you know, I don't know how that is resolved. And that's where I just say peace and love and blessings to the writers because they're going to figure that one out. Yeah, I just hope that they continue to grow and thrive, I guess would be what I want to see. What about you?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned the location, and it is appealing to think of them on the road, but also on the flip side of the coin, I love this whole Vegas atmosphere, and I think a post-pandemic Vegas would be really fun to see on screen. And yeah, I kind of want them to team up against that the other scripted thing. Like I want to see Ava and Deborah team up together. But I know, like, I trust the writers. They're just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
You had said in Vanity Fair that this job rewired your brain and helped give you some self-esteem. I wonder if you could just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. I think with stand-up comedy, which is my background, there is this external feedback loop that one becomes dependent upon for emotional wellness and well-being, because if I'm feeling like shit all day, I can get on stage, and if those people laugh at me, then I have some worth in the world. But this kind of changed that feedback loop. And while I was getting feedback from Lucia and Paul and Jen, who I want to make happy and proud more than anyone in the world, I still sort of had to get used to no laughs because we're, of course, recording sound. And so the work became sort of internal. And if I thought, oh, that was good and that felt good, it was because I was feeling it, you know. So it almost, it rewired sort of the way that I felt good, because it wasn't this like live one shot, this group of people either likes me or they don't. Like I had to kind of go inside a little more and do work that was not even comedy at times, and also it just was like, it was just like such a loving, supportive, cool environment where it was a lot of women and a lot of queer people. And it was just like, people were nice and supportive and loving. And I was like, oh, this is healthy. As opposed to me being, and by the way, like there are so many people like that who are stand-ups who are my family and my blood, and I love them. But as a culture, I would say like stand-up comes from this like patriarchy heavy institution sort of fraternity thing. And so there is toxicity there. And I almost was like, oh, it can be like this sometimes. Like you can go somewhere where there are these people that, I don't know, it's kind of like run by mostly women, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, you're in like, it just was a shift that I'm like, so grateful for.
I actually had met your mom at the Groundlings. I did the whole Groundlings program, and coming from that whole world where it is also dominated by straight men, it can be, sometimes you get into another space and you realize, oh, it doesn't have to be like this. And it's refreshing.
It is.
What do you want to do next? I mean, I'm sure that this is opening a lot of doors for you. Is there like a dream project or I don't know, what do you want for next? That's a weird way to phrase that fucking phrase. What do you want for next?
What I want for next, and I'm glad.
What do you want for next?
I'll tell you. I want to keep doing stand-up, and I also would like to, be involved with characters that I see myself in, and that feels accessible to people who maybe feel like me, or identify with elements of my experience. I really just am interested in playing, I suppose, non-male characters who feel deep and authentic and imperfect, and just, I suppose, funny, and I love comedy, and I'm starting to really love the dramatic work as well. So really just something that I feel connected to. That would be a blessing, and so great.
And you're such a successful stand-up comedian too, outside of Hacks. Is there any advice you would give someone who's starting out their stand-up career or their comedy career?
Well, it depends where you're starting. I would say that if you're in LA, there's a great website called thecomedybureau.com, and that has a list of all of the open mics in the city. And I believe New York has a version of it. Certain cities have versions of this, or there's like Facebook groups like blank blank comedy scene. And so I would join those groups, and I would find those open mics and hit as many as you possibly can. As many as you can in a night, and write as much as you possibly can, but also carve out time for you to have another hobby, to live your life outside of that, and just to work hard and be nice, and find influences everywhere, and really dig into the files, go down to Deborah's basement, watch the old tapes, do your homework.
By the way, not to interrupt you, but I did just read that Jean had done the funeral scene in Hacks right after her husband had passed. And I just, reading that it felt powerful. It felt like, I don't know. I just thought it was amazing.
Jean is among many beautiful, lovely, delicate things, an absolute fortress, and pulled strength from a place I did not know existed. And she was a consummate professional, and I cannot imagine having it in me. And she did. And she's really something.
One of the things I love so much about the TV landscape right now is that we're getting a chance to see a lot of these older actresses who have always been amazing, but finally getting them to see it to shine in different projects. And Jean is one example of that, but I hope it just continues. And Hacks is truly, I'm not even bullshitting you. To me, it's the best show on TV. That and Pen 15, like I just think the two shows are just the most brilliant things on TV. And sometimes you watch them and you're like, oh my God, I'm like almost jealous that these people are doing this brilliant thing. But I just think it's so, so good. So I want to wrap up, Hannah. I ask every guest these last two questions. Their favorite Mariah Carey song. And then I want to know, like, who was your childhood crush? Like, did you have a childhood celebrity crush?
My childhood celebrity crush. Oh my God. My childhood celebrity crush, this is so funny. In Ava's bedroom, there are photoshopped magazine covers. And when Jen asked me who would be there, I said, well, here I am pulling for my life, Jesse McCartney. And Jesse McCartney.
Beautiful soul.
Beautiful soul.
Yeah.
The very one. He watched Hex and saw it and like put it on his story. And so I talked to him and was like, hello, my childhood bedroom was plastered with your very, soft, beautiful face. And there was you could not see the walls because it was, Tiger Beat magazine, like fold out 3, whatever. And he was so lovely and so sweet. And so that's a very full circle psychotic.
Did you know he wrote Bleeding Love, the Leona Lewis song? I think he even recorded it, but he wrote that song or co-wrote it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know that. I mean, look, he was my hero for a reason.
Right. Okay. And favorite Mariah Carey song?
My favorite Mariah Carey song. God, I mean, like to me, the most iconic one is All I Want for Christmas Is You. And as a Jew, I had no choice but to learn that, right? Because we live in America. But I kind of love that because I didn't have like Christmas songs, but that one was the one that felt accessible because it is Mariah Carey.
And that one just permeated. There was no way escaping it. But there's really no wrong answers here in the Mariah Carey portion of the show. Hannah, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm honestly such a huge fan and I can't wait to watch what you do next. And any idea of when we might get Hacks season 2? Like, I need it right now.
I don't know. I don't even know when we're going to start shooting, to be honest.
Okay, well, Hannah, we need to figure that out and you need to let me know because I'm desperate for it.
Thank you.
Desperate.
This was really a lovely conversation.
Oh, it was totally my pleasure, Hannah. Thank you. Thank you.